Starfleet really did waste Data's potential, and Star Trek totally agrees. Data's potential and Star Trek totally agrees. By Sean Corley, January 20th, 2025. Follow, like, thread. 1. Link copied to clipboard. Warning, contains spoilers for Star Trek, Lower Decks, #3. Data's potential was wasted by Starfleet, and Star Trek itself agrees. The android Data has become a franchise icon, and his exploits in the Federation and Starfleet are legendary. Data is capable of feats of strength and intellect far beyond his Enterprise shipmates, and it would make sense for Data to hold an advanced position in Starfleet, but Star Trek, Lower Decks #3 makes the case that his potential was wasted. Star Trek, Lower Decks #3 is written by Ryan North and drawn by Jack Lawrence. Lieutenant Rutherford is lamenting that his implants are not functioning properly. Rutherford complains to Tendi that his implants should boost his brain power and make him a better engineer. Rutherford mentions Data's computing power and that it made Data a better engineer than him, Rutherford, and he wasn't even an engineer. Instead, Data was assigned to ops on the bridge of the Enterprise. Tendi notes that Rutherford has a point, speculating that Data's lack of emotions may have been his stumbling block. There is no one else in the Star Trek franchise quite like Data. Played by actor Brent Spiner, the android Data endeared himself to fans with his combination of strength, intellect, and innocence. Built by the famed cyberneticist Noonien Soong, Data has served in Starfleet with distinction, even if he has had to justify his existence to them. Data's positronic brain, one of a kind within the Federation, was years ahead of its time, and Starfleet's best cybernetics experts had been unable to duplicate Soong's work. In a universe already full of wonders, Data stands out even more. Data's positronic brain, as noted earlier, allowed him to function at a level far beyond his Enterprise shipmates. In several episodes, Data finds a solution in record time by using his positronic brain. For example, in the 5th season episode Hero Worship, Data, using his positronic brain as well as the Enterprise's computers, was able to prevent a catastrophe aboard the ship. If Data had not been present, the ship very likely would have been destroyed. This incident only scratches the surface of all the times Data's intellect saved the ship. Beyond his intelligence, Data was also physically hardy and resilient. Dr. Soong built Data well. He is super strong as well as faster than normal humans. In the 1st season Next Generation episode, The Naked Now, Data's super speed allows him to repair the ship's computer core much faster than a human would, thus saving the ship. Data is so strong, in fact, he can fight and defeat even Klingons with ease. As seen in Star Trek, First Contact, Data is also bulletproof. He also has a flotation device built into his body. Instead of running Starfleet, Data has a minor role, one that betrays his talents. Given Data's strength, intellect, and upstanding moral character, it might seem logical that he would hold some sort of advanced position within Starfleet, but this is not the case. Instead, Data was stationed at ops on the bridge, and within the ship's command structure, Data was next in line if anything happened to Captain Picard or Commander Riker. Despite this, Data's attempts at climbing the command ladder were stifled, largely because of his android nature. Unfortunately, as seen in several episodes, some Starfleet personnel did not trust the emotionless Data in a command situation. Lieutenant Commander Data, Starfleet's most advanced technological marvel, a walking, talking, positively charming positronic brain, and arguably the single most underutilized asset in Federation history. Sure, he had a seat on the bridge of the Enterprise D, occasionally flew the ship, solved science puzzles, and saved the day more times than any captain would care to admit. But when you take a step back and really think about what Starfleet had with Data, and what they actually did with him, you start to realize they had a supercomputer in a jumpsuit, and they mostly used him as a glorified calculator. And the wildest part? Star Trek seems to know it. Let's start with the basics. Data was capable of processing information at speeds no human could dream of. He had perfect recall, an evolving understanding of emotions, and a capacity for learning that was practically limitless. He wasn't just intelligent, he was innovative. The man built his own child. He built a child out of spare parts while working full-time on the flagship of the Federation. But instead of unleashing Data as a force of creative and scientific progress, Starfleet mostly treated him like a particularly useful multi-tool. Can't solve a puzzle? Data it. Need some quick calculations? Data it. Want to play poker with someone who remembers every hand ever played? Yep, that's Data. It's not that Starfleet was unkind to him. Captain Picard advocated for Data's rights and humanity in ways that were genuinely progressive and heartfelt. The crew respected him. Some even loved him. But no one ever seemed to ask, what would happen if we really gave this guy room to grow? What if Data had been put in charge of research at Daystrom Institute? What if he had been given his own command or his own lab with the freedom to explore the universe on his own terms? Even in universe, Data was aware of his limitations, not as a machine, but as a member of Starfleet. His endless pursuit of humanity was inspiring, but it also felt tragically constrained by the institution he served. Data wanted more. He wanted to feel, to grow, to evolve. Starfleet wanted him to be reliable, predictable, a machine that knew when to sit still. And you can tell the writers knew this too. As the Next Generation movies rolled in, especially Star Trek, Nemesis, the narrative seemed increasingly self-aware of how Data had been boxed in. His death in Nemesis wasn't just a heroic sacrifice, it was a full stop to a character who had nowhere else to go because the world around him refused to let him bloom. Enter Star Trek, Picard. Suddenly, the franchise is revisiting its mistakes. Data's legacy becomes a central thread in Season 1. The whole storyline with the synths and the ban on synthetic life practically screams, hey, remember when we ignored how groundbreaking Data really was? Even Picard, now a synthetic being himself, feels like a spiritual attempt to answer the question, what if we had truly embraced the future Data represented? And in Season 3, when Data returns in his most human form yet, a fusion of his past selves with new emotional capabilities, it's hard not to see it as Star Trek trying to make amends. They give him peace. They give him closure. They finally allow him to evolve into something new. It's beautiful, but also bittersweet, because it took decades and death for Starfleet and the showrunners to realize what they had in him. Data was more than a machine. He was a dream. The living embodiment of Roddenberry's vision of the future, not just where humans and aliens coexist, but where technology doesn't erase our humanity, it enhances it. But instead of setting him free, Starfleet clipped his wings. And Star Trek, ever the mirror to our own world, slowly, reluctantly admitted it. So yes, Starfleet really did waste Data's potential. They had a miracle on their bridge, and they mostly asked him to run diagnostics. But at least the franchise has the courage to own that mistake now. And maybe, just maybe, in the next century of Star Trek stories, they'll do better by the next dreamer in a synthetic shell. Let me know if you'd like a punchier version or something formatted like a blog post. Evolve into something new. It's beautiful, but also bittersweet because it took decades and death for Starfleet and the showrunners to realize what they had in him. Data was more than a machine. He was a dream. The living embodiment of Roddenberry's vision of the future, not just where humans and aliens coexist, but where technology doesn't erase our humanity, it enhances it. But instead of setting him free, Starfleet clipped his wings. And Star Trek, ever the mirror to our own world, slowly, reluctantly admitted it. So yes, Starfleet really did waste Data's potential. They had a miracle on their bridge, and they mostly asked him to run diagnostics. But at least the franchise has the courage to own that mistake now. And maybe, just maybe, in the next century of Star Trek stories, they'll do better by the next dreamer in a synthetic shell. Let me know if you'd like a punchier version or something formatted like a blog post.